After the redemption arc ended, my husband got tired of me. It took him 8 years to go from seeing me as his cheerful sunshine, to viewing me as a nagging, worn-out wife. When he mentioned his secretary's cuteness for the 3rd time in front of me, I gently put down my knife and fork and told him, "Let's get a divorce." He was stunned for a moment, but didn't reject the idea. As we walked out of the registration office, he whispered, "It's my fault. Let's remain friends." "No," I said, "I never want to see you again." I had dived into a book, There to Save Jimmy, a paranoid and sickly character. I spent time reading with him, going to school, and shielding him whenever his father beat him. He once said I was a light in his dark life. But then, we got married and had 2 kids. In the mundane daily grind, he began to tire of me. If only we'd waited longer to get married, I could have had more fun for a couple more years, he joked with a friend. And I just happened to be standing outside the study with a fruit tray. Jimmy's words were casual and teasing, as if joking. His friend didn't take it seriously, saying, "You used to treasure her like gold. Now you regret it." "Not really," he said quietly. "Annie is great, but just that he was a bit tired of me." I had deeply analyzed Jimmy's character traits. Underneath his dark and indifferent childhood lay a defiant nature. He could kneel in the snow all night for someone he loved, or climb 6 floors barehanded for a business deal. His essence was a love for adventure and excitement. Now, our peaceful and dull life bored him. I thought about this blankly and then heard, "You could go out and have some fun." His friend hinted, "Your wife's getting old. There are always young beauties eager to please you." Jimmy shook his head, sounding more serious. "I won't betray my wife." "Don't say that again." He was loyal to me, but no longer passionate. 8 years of marriage, 2 kids, all the memories of knowing each other and falling in love, they'd all turned into familial affection. Is this right? I didn't know. After work, I got home to find the nanny had made dinner. I looked at the empty chair and asked, "Is he not coming home again today?" "Yes, he said he has social events, busy," was the response. I didn't say anything. After dinner, I grabbed my coat and headed out, wandering over to Jimmy's company, taking the elevator to the top floor. Outside his office, I could faintly hear soft voices. It was him and his secretary. Just as I was about to enter, I heard Jimmy sigh nostalgically. "You remind me of my wife when she was young. Very cute, full of energy, like a perpetual ray of sunshine." The woman's voice was playful. "If your wife is so great, why don't you want to go home?" "She's getting old," Jimmy said bluntly. "She's 30 now. Home feels stagnant, like a dead pool of water, kept alive by the kids. So noisy." The girl giggled. "So you'd rather chat with me? Great, you can tell me all your worries." "Don't worry. I don't have any other intentions. I just feel bad that you can't return home." Through the narrow door gap, I saw Jimmy close to his secretary, their clothes entangled. He whispered to her to keep it professional. She giggled again. He looked at her radiant smile, a familiar, awed light in his eyes. Just like when, long ago, I handed him roses, wishing him a happy birthday. His expression was the same. What should a deeply in love couple do when all their feelings wear out amidst daily trivialities? I had asked Jimmy this when he proposed. He had been silent for a moment, then took my hand and kissed it gently. "I don't think we'll ever stop loving each other. Even if we do, it'll be you tired of me. Annie, you are the only light in my dark life. There's no Jimmy without you. I'll be loyal to you forever." In his original life, his mother died young, his father was a drunken abuser, and he wore tattered clothes daily, curled up in classroom corners, enduring classmates' bullying. It was I who approached him one sunny morning. He once asked confusedly, "Why are you helping me?" "Because it's meant to be." I held his hand with a smile. "Jimmy, do you believe in fate?" "I don't believe, but if fate brought you to me, I'm grateful." When Jimmy came home, I was on the balcony, smoking. Through the swirling smoke, he frowned, grabbed the cigarette, and crushed it underfoot. "Why are you smoking?" he demanded, displeased. "Annie, speak." "I was thinking about your secretary," I said. "Jimmy, can you let her go?" "Why?" He looked puzzled, with other emotions I couldn't distinguish, nor cared to. "She's doing a decent job." "I hate her," I repeated. "Jimmy, let her go. I don't want to see her around you anymore." Jimmy stared at me for a long time, then laughed, jealous. "Fine, I'll let her go and hire a male secretary, okay?" He tapped my head, his tone exasperated. "We're old married folks. The kids are 5, and you're still jealous of a secretary. Aren't you ashamed?" I smiled, saying nothing. In bed after washing up, we chatted a bit about the kids, then had nothing more to say. Lying in bed, about to drift off, I heard him say, "Annie, this life is really boring, isn't it?" All night long, the room stayed silent. Jimmy dismissed the secretary right in front of me. In the following days, he came home earlier, constantly teasing me, saying I was overly sensitive, like an unstable cat. Life seemed back on track. I was busy with work and soon forgot about it all. Until our daughter Sarah's kindergarten held a parent-child event. I called Jimmy. There was noise in the background. I asked what was happening. He tiredly reassured me, "It's nothing. I probably can't make it. Annie, have the assistant go with you. I'll bring you gifts afterwards." "Okay, take care of yourself." I hung up. In the afternoon, I went to the hospital with a friend for her checkup. In front of the CT room, I saw that dismissed female secretary. She looked exhausted, supporting an elderly woman with graying hair, her own waist slightly hunched. The elderly woman, looking unwell, kept muttering, "This time, thanks to Jimmy's help. If you ask me, he definitely has a thing for you. You have such a pretty face. You should take advantage of it and get some money. If you marry him, your brother could benefit too." "Mom," the girl gritted her teeth and interrupted her mother. "Jimmy has a wife. So what if he has a wife?" The old woman was indifferent. "A woman in her 30s can't compare to you. Didn't Jimmy also say you looked like her when she was younger? Maybe that's just his type." "Mom, stop talking." The girl saw me. She nervously shook her mother's arm to hush her and bowed her head to greet me. I gazed at her indifferently. "What did Jimmy help you with?" "Jimmy helped me find a doctor for my mom's surgery as a favor from our past acquaintance." She bit her lip and bowed her head even lower. "Please don't misunderstand. I went to beg Jimmy for help." "No worries, getting medical help is essential." I smiled at her. "Go ahead and take your mom for her checkup. I wish you all the best with the surgery." "Thank you." She stammered her thanks and supported her mother away. Sitting in front of the CT room, I pondered a while and told my assistant to check their ward and Jimmy's whereabouts. In the evening, Jimmy went to the hospital to visit the female secretary and her mother. The three chatted happily, and the secretary's cheeks were flushed with excitement, frequently moving closer to Jimmy with her mother encouraging it. Jimmy avoided her. The assistant added cautiously, "I was watching the video they recorded." Just as Jimmy avoided her, he gentlemanly made a fist and supported her waist, preventing her from falling. "What's the girl's name?" "Nina." "Okay, I got it." I waved to my assistant. "You can go now." That night, I projected the video onto the TV and showed it to Jimmy. He was silent for a moment, then closed his eyes. "I'm sorry, I just wanted to help a friend. I thought she reminded me of you when you were younger. Very sweet." I paused the video on Nina's shy, blushing face and asked him, "Are you using her to reminisce about how I used to be? Is that what this is about?" "I'm sorry, I'll handle it. I had no intention of betraying you, not even a little bit. Of course, you wouldn't. I believe you." I interrupted him. "I own 20% of his company. We had 2 kids together. I knew all the things he had done, the methods, the dirt. He was just worn out. He didn't really want to let go of our marriage. But she has feelings for you, Jimmy. Can't you see that? Or do you just enjoy the admiration?" His face gradually turned pale. After a long silence, he finally promised seriously, "I was wrong, Annie. This won't happen again. I'll make things clear to her and won't let her disturb our lives anymore. I'm sorry about her." I smiled slightly. "She's not wrong. I am getting older. That's a fact. You're reaching new heights, meeting more people. I understand your heart might wander for a moment, but I don't accept it. You promised me lifetime loyalty. Have you forgotten that?" "Yes, I'm sorry." His lips turned even whiter, his eyelashes trembled, and he closed his eyes. "I promise, it won't happen again." As I looked at him, a thought popped into my head. He now finds love painful. Why? I was lost in thought when Jimmy interrupted. "I'm going to check on Sarah." He walked over, got close, and kissed my ear. "You go take a bath. I'll be right back." He looked radiant again, as if my doubts were just insignificant illusions. "Is that so?" I had no idea what Jimmy told that female secretary, but my people said her whole family left. The new secretary was male, professional, and very respectful to me. Jimmy started coming home earlier and more frequently. He treated me with an exaggerated kindness. It was almost like he was genuinely repentant and extra nice to me. At events, the other glamorous wives couldn't help but be envious. "Jimmy treats you so well. 8 years of marriage and it's still like your honeymoon." All along, I was the enviable Mrs. Jimmy. Even during his most lenient period with Nina, that never changed. I should have been happy, but something felt off. Jimmy was too good to me, as if it were an act. I didn't understand why I felt this way until Nina stopped me on the street. Her eyes were swollen from crying, and she angrily said, "Jimmy doesn't love you anymore. He's only being nice to you now to repay you for saving him back then. What makes you think you deserve to stay by his side? You're making him miserable. If I had met him before you did, I would be Mrs. Jimmy today." My bodyguards were already restraining her. I looked at this somewhat deranged girl and said softly, "Did he tell you that he took special notice of you, because you resemble me at 18? "So what?" she said bitterly. "That just shows if I'd met him first, he would have loved me, not you. You're wrong. I smiled. He noticed you, because he first fell in love with me. Without me, you mean nothing to him. I never doubted Jimmy's love for me. The man who kneeled and confessed his love was genuinely full of love for me. I also didn't doubt Nina's words now. 8 years had passed. He no longer loved me, but because of the debt of his youth, he pretended to still love me, always treating me well. He loves me. His acting. The cold wind howled past, lifting the edges of my coat. I instructed the bodyguards, tell Jimmy exactly what this woman said today, word for word. With that, I stumbled alone, high heels clicking toward the river. Don't follow me, I coldly told the bodyguards. I need to be alone, by the riverbank. Looking at the turbulent waters below, memories of him and me started to resurface. His father, drunk and mad, whipped him like a crazy person. After calling the police and shouting for help multiple times, nobody came. I looked at Leo, covered in injuries on the ground. Clenching his fists, he was about to grab a fruit knife to fight back and kill his father. I threw myself onto him, shielding him from the whip soaked in alcohol. My fingers loosened and the knife handle slid 3 meters away. The boy hugged me, trembling, his hands covered in whip marks. We held each other tightly, and amidst a dizzy spell, we heard the sirens. I changed his fate. He didn't end up killing his father, nor did he get sentenced to 3 years in prison for it. In the hospital, Jimmy looked at my wounds. With red eyes and a choked voice, he said, "You saved my life. Annie, if I ever wrong you, may I get hit by a car." He has been keeping that promise. From marriage until now, he has protected me, respected me, provided me with the best conditions and environment. In everyone's eyes, I have always been the glamorous Mrs. Jimmy. I have money, status, a job, and children. Just no love. I don't pity myself. I'm just very sad. When Jimmy came over, I was sitting by the river, feeling the breeze. My high heels were thrown haphazardly by the shore, lying messily. He came over, straightened up my high heels, and with effort, sat beside me. He was very quiet, and so was I. From 16 to 30, we had spent half our lives entangled with each other. We know each other too well, even without talking. He knew that I believed what Nina said. Why not explain? He asked softly. I don't want to lie to you. I'm sorry. Just 3 simple words. But it felt like my heart was being shoved into the freezing river, ice cold down to the bone. I heard myself mechanically ask, "So what do you want to do?" "Depends on you," he said. "Whatever you decide, I'll agree." He handed the choice to me. He let me decide whether to continue living this loveless marriage. "Do you still want to live with me?" He remained silent. That was the answer. He didn't really want to. Now, he's powerful and wealthy, with women and everything he could want. If he could get rid of me, no, get rid of the marriage and the moral shackles of gratitude, he would enjoy a carefree, indulgent life, instead of being stuck in a dead end, comforting me, an old woman. I chuckled softly, tears rolling down my cheeks. "Have your lawyer draft a divorce agreement. I need to review it before I decide." Setting emotions aside, I naturally want to maximize my interests in the marriage. I did think about going on like this, pretending I know nothing, continuing to accept Jimmy's support, being a carefree, wealthy wife, until I saw at the party the next day, a young, beautiful girl who looked remarkably like me, with skin so smooth it seemed to drip water. That girl was shyly tolerating the teasing of a portly sugar daddy by her side. The man's large hand was wrapped around her waist. I was about to walk over when I saw Jimmy step in. He courteously helped the girl out of the predicament. He didn't do anything inappropriate. He just looked at the girl's pitiful eyes, his expression subtly shifting for a moment. His body paused, and as the girl's fingers touched his arm, he instantly shook her off. "Mind yourself," he said. People around were mocking the girl for overestimating herself, foolishly thinking she could intervene between Jimmy and Annie. The girl's face flushed red, as she hurriedly ran away with her dress hem in hand. Jimmy's gaze swept past her lightly, then turned and walked towards me. Stopping, he gently called, "Annie." I said, "Let's talk about the divorce." I finally realized clearly that Jimmy's life was filled with too many temptations. Too many people crowd around, with unsettling factors permeating every aspect of his life. He used to love me and would push them away for me. Now, out of guilt, he pretends to love me, rejecting them, repaying his debt for my saving grace. But what about the future? There are so many years ahead in my life. How long will his guilt last? Will it change one day? Will there be a day when he feels he's repaid enough and accepts another girl's embrace and kisses, feeling at ease? I don't want to gamble. When Jimmy pushed that girl away, I noticed his sidelong glance just landed on her hand, with a tinge of regret in his eyes. He had complimented my hands countless times, saying they were beautiful, soft, and small, nice to hold. But that girl's hands were a bit large and rough. he didn't find the shadow of someone familiar, and felt regretful. From Nina to that girl, maybe there are countless trivial stories I don't know. I'm still alive, standing here, yet is already impatient to find my replacement. Is it necessary to continue this marriage, rather than betting on his feelings? I would prefer to maximize my interests, while he still feels guilty towards me. I reviewed the divorce agreement. Child custody goes to him. Company shares remain unchanged. Most of the real estate is mine. All in all, I got about 60% of the total assets. In the study, I looked down at the agreement and said to him, "You can add one more thing. My shares will be left as inheritance for our children." He nodded. I continued, "And one more request. Your company and properties must be guaranteed to be left entirely to our children." "It's a given," he said without hesitation, but I looked at him with mockery in my eyes. "Words alone. How do you expect me to believe you will do it? You once said you would love me eternally, but that changed, didn't it?" He froze for a moment. "So, you get a vasectomy," I said coldly. "I want to ensure that only my children exist in the Jimmy family." He didn't agree immediately, but was silent for a long time. "Annie, if you had truly kept your promises from the start, we wouldn't be here with such issues." Calmly, I stared at him, using my words to slowly stir up his sense of guilt. "Back in high school, I made crafts with you. You gave me 1,000 paper cranes, saying you wished to stay with me forever, never to part." "All right," he agreed. "I'll have the surgery." Looking at the person I had shared a bed with for so many years across from me, I suddenly felt very sad. In my work, I have schemed against many people. Now, I have schemed against him as well. 8 years of marriage, over a decade together, and now we've reached this point. Jimmy asked me, "So, have you decided to get a divorce?" I was silent for a moment, then asked him a question that had puzzled me for a long time. "You say you don't love me anymore, but the women around you all have bits of my shadow." "Why?" He was taken aback. "I never stopped loving you, Annie. I'm just a little tired. The day after day, calm, uneventful life is really boring. I wanted something different to spice things up." "Like Nina?" I asked. He forced a smile, looking a bit pale. "It's my fault. Nothing happened between her and me. She just reminded me of you when you were younger, not as mature, very innocent, very cute. Sometimes, seeing how much she resembled you, I couldn't help but be good to her." He mentioned how cute she was, for the third time. "Her cuteness is because she looks like me." I could barely distinguish if cute was describing her or me. "Forget it," I told myself. "There's no need to dwell on this anymore." Feeling mentally dazed, I looked at the familiar man in front of me and told him softly, "I've made up my mind. Let's get a divorce." He paused, didn't argue. His shoulders sagged, almost in relief, and the atmosphere became more relaxed. At that moment, I realized just how much he wanted to be free from this marriage. A youthful salvation had become shackles that bound both him and me. The day we went to the civil affairs office was bitterly cold. Even wrapped in a scarf, I could feel the cold wind sneaking in. I hunched my neck. Jimmy noticed, and instinctively reached out to help me tighten the scarf. I dodged, leaving his hand awkwardly suspended in mid-air. After a while, he murmured, "Sorry, it's a habit." "It's fine." I shook my head, pointing at the entrance of the office. "You have all the documents, right? Let's go in." We filed the application, with a 30-day cooling-off period. As we left the office, Jimmy looked dazedly at the papers in his hand before finally saying to me, "You can keep the villa. The kids will stay there. I'll move out. I'll cover the expenses for the maid and the kids, and I'll arrange for security. I'll have my things cleared out. You stay here comfortably." Finally, he asked me, somewhat timidly, "Annie, we'll still be friends, right?" "No," I told him outright. "If possible, I don't want to see you ever again." His face turned pale instantly. When news of our divorce broke, it created quite a stir in our circle. My phone blew up. Anyone even slightly connected to me was eager to witness my downfall. I could almost imagine their smug remarks. I knew it. All that pampering was just an act. I told her, "Don't let your man have fun, and soon enough, he'll leave you too. This woman is so pitiful, dumped by Jimmy at 30. Who else would want her?" As my assistant recounted these words to me, I was lying in the villa garden, dozing off on a deck chair, basking in the sun. My assistant nervously asked, "Madam, how should we handle this?" "Ignore it." I lazily looked at the glistening swimming pool not far away. I remember a young male star recently begged me for a chance outside the company. "Check who he is and bring him over. I want to see him." My assistant was stunned, then quickly nodded. "I will look into it right away." In the evening, as I walked into the hotel room wrapped in a cloak, I saw Leo sitting dazedly on the sofa, just 18 years old. I sat down across from him with interest. So young and already in the entertainment industry. He pursed his lips. I was scouted at 16. I've been in the industry for 2 years with no opportunities. I didn't listen much to what he said next, focusing instead on his face. Leo, at 18, had no wrinkles. His skin was smooth like a milk pudding, a youthfulness countless beauty treatments couldn't replicate. I can give you what you want, I interrupted him. A flash of joy crossed his eyes. Thank you. Hesitating, he asked, what do you need me to do? What do you think? I chuckled. When you gave me your business card, did you only want to chat with me? Leo froze, then blushed, kneeling on one knee. His beautiful eyes never left mine as he took my hand and kissed it. I'll do my best to make you happy. I smiled, propping my head up to watch his eager, excited expression. In my mind, I asked Jimmy, is this the excitement you wanted? My time with Leo was calm. I saw him twice a week, and each time he brought vibrant roses. For you, he smiled brightly. I hope it brightens your day. Sometimes, he'd chat about the happenings on set, gently touching my arm, shyly mentioning he recently learned how to give massages. Is that how you serve your benefactors? No, he whispered, only for you. At home, I'd occasionally bump into Jimmy coming to pick up his things. I always pretended not to see him, keeping a straight face. Jimmy, however, would call out to me, subtly reminding me to keep a low profile for the kids' sake. I asked, am I being too high profile? Anything related to the entertainment industry involves some trouble. He advised, that world is chaotic. You should be careful. I don't need your advice. I looked him in the eye. What right do you have to lecture me? His lips moved, but I shut him down. On another chilly afternoon, with nothing else to do, I went to the set where the young star was filming. My assistant thoughtfully bought milk tea for the whole crew. Leo ran out in costume, his eyes lighting up when he saw me. Annie, excitedly, he said, I'll tell the director I'm leaving early. Wait for me. He went inside and soon came out in regular clothes, holding a large bouquet of roses. With burning intensity, he handed them to me. Annie, happy Valentine's Day. I froze for a moment before slowly realizing, today is Valentine's Day. Yeah, I took the bouquet of roses. In the sunset, looking at his sparkling, expectant eyes, his forehead covered in tiny beads of sweat from running. Passionate, wild, free. I vaguely felt something like excitement. I thought it would make me happy, like how Jimmy gets excited by the thrill of those girls. But I wasn't. I felt a bit tired, a bit bored, and even thought about going home to watch the two kids read English books. At the charity auction, I had Leo accompany me as my date. At the auction, many people whispered about us and pointed fingers. He had clearly never been in this kind of situation before. He leaned in closer and timidly said, Annie, it's okay. I reassured him with a pat on the back of his hand. Jimmy also attended. His date was some rich girl who shyly clung to his arm, looking at me smugly. I didn't care. In the middle of chatting with some business partners, I turned around and realized Leo was gone. I searched everywhere and found him in a dimly lit garden, surrounded by a group of rich ladies, teasing him without restraint. You didn't start up with Annie before she even got divorced, did you? What's his deal? He looks so average. How did he get with Annie? Forget Annie. She got dumped by Jimmy anyway. How does she even dare show up at this party? Are you done? I coldly interrupted them, gossiping about others like fishwives. Is that your idea of class? The laughter stopped and they looked at each other. Even though I divorced Jimmy, I'm still an executive at a public company and hold shares. They wouldn't dare openly fall out with me, and had to make way. I walked in, grabbed Leo's hand to pull him up. You okay? He nodded faintly, his face pale. Seeing him so frightened, I raised my hand and rubbed the back of his head. Don't worry, I'll make them pay for it. Annie, that's quite a statement. Do you really think you can fall out with all of us just for a fling? Not far away, Jimmy's date smirked at me with ill intentions. By her side, Jimmy watched my hand intently, his expression unreadable. I ignored him and tried to leave with the boy, but the rich girl blocked my way. Annie, you're really not giving me any face. What do you want? She eyed the boy beside me for a moment and then smiled. How about letting me have some fun with him too? I also want to see what makes him so much better that Jimmy's wife would dump Jimmy for him. She was clearly looking for trouble. Really unlucky for me. I chuckled and asked, do you think I'd agree? Is Jimmy just going to stand there and watch? I cut her off, looking at Jimmy. I'm protecting my own. Jimmy, shouldn't you manage your date too? A flash of darkness crossed his eyes, but he quickly smiled and pulled his date back. My bad, Annie. Don't take it personally. Is an apology enough? I raised an eyebrow, A verbal apology means nothing. How about Jimmy helps me buy 2 auction items, and we call it even? Sure, he agreed quickly. The items weren't expensive, and I wasn't particularly interested in them. When the organizers brought them over, I tossed them to the boy beside me. Compensation for mental distress. This is too valuable. Just take it. I grew impatient. Tonight has been full of annoying things. Don't say another word and let me have some peace. He hesitated and then obediently agreed. Back home that night, after checking on the kids, I went out and saw Jimmy. He was in a suit, looking mildly drunk, standing there in a daze. I tried to ignore him, but as I passed the staircase, he grabbed my wrist. Today, you touched Leo's head. His voice was low, sounding both drunk and somewhat pitiful. My head hurts too, Annie. Won't you touch mine too? Touching heads had a special meaning between Jimmy and me. His hair was soft and the touch felt comforting. When we were tired, close, whispering secrets, I loved running my hand through his hair, feeling like it brought us closer. But that was in the past. Now, I looked at the drunken man before me in bewilderment. How much did you drink? Your mind is all foggy. I called the duty guards to escort Jimmy out. As they dragged him away, Jimmy resisted. He tugged at my sleeve and asked, "Why won't you touch me?" I asked the guard, "Can you just knock him out?" The guard looked troubled. I took a deep breath, put on a gentle smile, and said to Jimmy, "Be good and go with them to another place. I'll come find you later, okay? But I want to be with you." He said pitifully, "If you don't behave, I'll ignore you." I put on a stern face and saw him panic and let go of my sleeve. "I'll be good. I won't act up. Just don't ignore me." He followed the guards away. I stood there, feeling a bit disoriented. His behavior reminded me of our son, when he caused trouble. They even looked alike. I almost couldn't tell them apart. Shaking my head, I hurried back to my room to shower and sleep. The next day, when I got home from work, Jimmy was in the living room playing with the kids. I didn't want to deal with it, so I turned to go upstairs, but heard Jimmy's hesitant voice. "Can we talk?" "About what?" "Just recent things. We haven't sat down and talked in a while, right?" "No need," I answered absent-mindedly. "It's his birthday today. I have to go be with him. We'll talk later." He didn't say anything after that. I went to the amusement park. Leo had already bought popcorn and was waving at me from a distance. Seeing his enthusiastic face, I felt a bit dazed before steadying myself and walking over. After playing for a while, he handed me a bottle of cold water and cautiously asked, "Annie, do you not like it here? You seem uninterested. Maybe we can go somewhere else." "No need." I shook my head. "I'm just in a bit of a bad mood." The last time I came to the amusement park was right after I had my second child. My ex-husband came with me. At that time, I was dealing with postpartum anxiety, depression, and a tough situation at work. I was in a really bad state. Jimmy really felt bad for me. He brought me to the amusement park, just the two of us. Under the Ferris wheel, he hugged me and said, "Annie, don't worry about those things. I'll always have your back. I'm your strongest support. I will always love you. You know my ex-husband, right?" I leaned on the railing outside the carousel and took a sip of my water. "Yeah, the one who was the center of attention at the last auction, Jimmy. The guy who gave you 2 of his collectibles." He nodded thoughtfully. "Did he do something wrong that led to the divorce?" "Not really." I looked at him and smiled. "He just likes younger people. Everyone likes new things. It's natural. Including you." He looked at me carefully, a hint of hope in his eyes. I smiled. "I don't know. I started seeing you because I wanted to know if I could be drawn to the excitement you guys bring. Now, I think I'm not. Many times when I'm with him, I feel I'd rather be at home with my kids, reading, or handling work at the office. The thrill from new things doesn't compare to the warmth from a stable routine." I used to think it was my ex's fault, that he wronged me by changing his mind, which led to our breakup. But lately, I've realized that our personalities were never really compatible. We just happened to get together by chance, and now we're just going back to where we should be. He loves excitement, he needs passion, but I don't care for it. I might even find it annoying. We were never a good match. Leo listened intently. I looked at him and softly said, "Actually, I came today to tell you something. Let's not see each other anymore. Movies, TV shows, endorsements, I'll still help you with those. But the rest of your path, you gotta walk yourself." He wasn't very surprised, just a bit teary-eyed. I could sense it earlier. "You didn't seem upset with me. You were more like an older sister, always looking out for me." With teary eyes, he looked up. "Can I give you a hug? After today, I might not see you again." I nodded kindly and reached out to hug his shoulders. His body was a bit stiff, very warm, and his breath was near my ear. He said softly, "Thank you." Leo left on his own. I leaned on the railing, watching the colorful scene ahead, feeling calm inside. At first, I sought him out of resentment, out of curiosity. I wanted to know why Jimmy chased after this so-called thrill and if it was better than me. Now, as I let him go, it's because I no longer care. I'm gradually letting go of Jimmy, letting go of my obsession. Gradually, I'm getting over that past relationship. After work, I got home. Sarah showed me her new pencil drawing, proudly asking for praise. I couldn't help but laugh and patted her head. Great job, honey. Sam, being older, isn't as carefree as Sarah. At the dinner table, he frowned at me, all grown up like, and asked, Mom, are you and Dad divorced? Did someone say something to you? He shook his head. I guessed. Dad hasn't been living with us for a long time. The book says that's called divorce. Sweetie, I thought of how to explain. Dad and I are separated, but we both love you and your sister. We just don't live together anymore. If you want to see Dad, you can call him anytime, okay? He nodded quietly, still a bit upset. I patted his head. That's unavoidable. I thought they'll have to get used to it bit by bit. That night, I thought about it and called Jimmy. Can you spend more time with the kids? He laughed sarcastically. What? Too busy with your lover to take care of the kids? What are you talking about? I was speechless. Why so aggressive? We just got divorced. I'm worried about the kids overthinking it. Besides, if I have a lover, what's it to you? You have no right to control me, ex-husband. The last two words were emphasized. I slowed down, practically grinding them out. Jimmy was clearly taken aback. He said in a low voice, fine, I will. But he couldn't help himself. But you should watch the impact. We just divorced, and you're already getting the kids a new dad. What does that have to do with you? I was annoyed. I hate people telling me what to do. And the way you're acting, it's easy to misinterpret it like you still have feelings for me. I couldn't help but laugh. No way, Jimmy. Don't tell me you're that pathetic. Regretting it after the divorce. There was a long silence on his end. It felt like he made up his mind, or suddenly realized something. Then in a hoarse, hurried voice, he said, okay, I'm sorry. I won't do this again. The days after that were pretty peaceful. Having money, kids, and a career, but no husband is really freeing. I don't have to keep my figure. Don't have to consider anyone else's opinion. Don't have to guess which of my words was wrong. Even if I'm not a wild person, life feels a lot freer. After some time, Jimmy's name started popping up in tabloid news more often, involving rich heiresses, entertainment stars, even models. There were whispers in the circle, saying he must have been really restrained before to act out like this now. Also, they called me a jealous woman. I ignored it. At a banquet I attended with my assistant, many people subtly tried to seat me near Jimmy, clearly waiting for drama. I didn't feel much about it. Just noticed Jimmy's date was different from the one in the last story. I sincerely reminded him, take care of yourself. His face turned dark instantly. On the way home, in the car, my assistant sighed, Annie, it seems you really don't care about Jimmy anymore. You could say something like that. It feels like your attitude is no different from others who were there just for the show. Really? I laughed. Maybe. After all, it's been a while. I had to move on eventually. I don't like changes in life, but once things change, I can adapt really well. I thought my life would stay this calm, until one sunny morning. I woke up a bit late, half awake, and saw someone sitting by my bed. I screamed immediately. It's me. His voice was hoarse, with a hint of tobacco. It was Jimmy. You? I regret it. He told me very simply, Annie, those people mean nothing. None of them are you. I like you. I love you. I can't live without you. I regret it. I'm a dog, a jerk. I admit it. My bad. I thought I'd get used to being with them. But I really can't forget you. I can't stand life without you. If you're not here, I'll go crazy. I was stunned, totally dumbfounded. After a moment, I sorted out what he just said. Really, it's surprising. Propping myself up, I looked at him with complex emotions. Are you out of your mind? His eyes turned red instantly. Annie, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I can't live without you. Really can't. Alright, shut up. I didn't want to hear his self-pitying speech. My head ached as I pressed my eyebrow. Go to the study room first. I'll tidy up, and then we can talk. It's like seeing a ghost early in the morning. I washed my face, stared into the bathroom mirror for a long time, then finally comprehended what Jimmy meant earlier. He regrets it, and he wants to get back together. Is he crazy? In the study room, he sat properly on the sofa, eyes fixed on the top of the bookcase. It was a family photo taken last year. He held Sarah, I held Sam, and we were smiling happily. He just looked at it, his eyes red, brimming with tears. I walked over. Need me to send you a copy of the photo, so you can look at it at home? He froze for a moment, his voice hoarse. Annie, I'm sorry. Quickly, he added, I regret it. I shouldn't have thought that way. I love you, and I need you. Without you, I don't know how to live. You're doing pretty well. I frowned at him. You're top of the tabloids every day, with so many beauties around you. How is that not good? Those are just. I just wanted to see if I could forget you. His face showed pain, but I found out I can't. Just looking at them, I think you'll get mad. I don't dare touch them. A voice in my head tells me you'll really leave me. I was wrong, Annie. I really was. The past boredom was me being dramatic, ungrateful. I didn't appreciate you being by my side. I was too content, too happy. So those unwanted thoughts came up. I really know I was wrong. I looked at him quietly, reminding him, a year ago, when you said you were tired of me, you didn't hesitate at all. When he rushed into his new life, he was so eager and hopeful. I can never forget. When I said I wanted a divorce, he seemed relieved. That scene made me feel like a joke. It's truly hard to forget. And now, his remorse only makes it more ridiculous. I asked him, before the divorce, you said we were together too long. You were tired of me, and you only treated me well because of the gratitude for saving you. Now, you say you love me. Doesn't that seem contradictory? He looked down, fingers nervously resting on his knees, eyelashes fluttering, and said weakly, I'm sorry. Maybe I was out of my mind at that time, thinking wrong. I'm sorry. I nodded. People's thoughts can change, I understand. But, Jimmy, how can you guarantee that in a few months, no, a few days, you won't change your mind again? You might walk out that door and think I'm so old and ugly, nothing compared to young girls, and regret coming here. He had nothing to say. He couldn't argue. A year ago, when he wanted a divorce, he didn't expect to be here now, begging for my forgiveness. He can't even foresee his changing attitude towards me. That's the most painful part. He could only look at me intently, eyes full of desperation. I sighed. I think you haven't sorted out your thoughts and feelings. Go back, Jimmy. When you've truly figured out the issues between us, come talk to me. My voice grew serious. Also, I'll have security cancel your fingerprint access. In the future, without permission, please don't come here again. Now, leave. After Jimmy left, I pulled open the curtains, propping myself on the window to look at the sky outside. The clear blue sky, without a single cloud. As I watched, I thought about Jimmy's situation. He probably does regret it. People always regret past decisions. That's normal. I just didn't expect him to come in so directly, like some young kid, desperately and crazily apologizing. Since his business took off, he always presented himself as calm and dignified. Even when we were still in love, he rarely showed such madness. Madness to the point of being a bit out of touch. Maybe because he knows me too well. He knows, once I make a decision, I never go back. During work hours, Jimmy came to see me. The first thing he said was, I've thought it over. He even brought a share transfer agreement. I can transfer all my shares, all my property, everything I have to you. My promises mean nothing, but this property does. If I betray again, you can make me leave with nothing. I looked at him, and a word suddenly popped into my mind. Lunatic. I pushed the tea towards him. Have a drink. He didn't move, stubbornly staring at me, eyes unwavering, pleading, Annie. I lowered my head. Why are you so certain you can't live without me? He pursed his lips. These days, every time I come home and see the empty, cold house, I can't help but think of you and our kids. In the past, no matter how late I returned, you'd leave a light on for me, give me homemade soup. When I had a headache, you'd massage it, telling me not to overwork, that money isn't more important than health. The two kids were noisy, playing in their room, asking me to tell them stories, then happily reading their books. He spoke, eyes revealing nostalgic memories. When I had these things, I thought they were ordinary, even found them annoying. It wasn't until I lost them that I realized how important they were to me. I used to think excitement was just a bonus to a perfect life, a delusion born from living too smoothly. He looked into my eyes, voice hoarse. My childhood was tough, so I wanted a family, to give my kids a beautiful childhood. But I had it and then ruined it with my own hands. Annie, do you know how much I wanted to kill myself? How much I hated myself? Hated why I had to make such a wrong decision that destroyed such a beautiful life. His voice gradually carried a sob. Tears fell, one by one, onto the shiny floor. A phrase suddenly came to mind. The inherent flaws of men. It's only after losing something that you start to cherish it. I smiled. You're pretty pathetic. Yes, I know, he said. I refused Jimmy's proposal. No matter what you say, I won't reconsider our relationship. Please leave. You know, once I make a decision, there's no turning back. The light in his eyes shattered instantly, like falling into endless darkness, like it would never get better. When we divorced, I already had a vague thought that Jimmy might regret it one day. With his mother passing early and his father being an alcoholic, he longed for a happy, complete family more than anyone. He had a vasectomy, and having kids again would be difficult and bothersome. Only I could give him that completeness. I just didn't expect he'd regret it so quickly. After I turned him down, he left in despair. The next time I saw him, he was back to being the sharp, suited executive. My company sent me to negotiate a partnership. He seemed calm, clear-headed, by the book, following all the rules. Our colleagues knew our history and gave me a sympathetic look. I just smiled and stayed quiet. In our 30s, we're too old to play the clingy young love game. It's a good thing. As I was about to leave, Jimmy texted me, "Stay for a bit, I have something to say." I waited for him at the cafe downstairs. He came over, sat across from me, ordered a coffee, and apologized. "I'm sorry for my impulsive actions earlier. Saying those things to you was out of impulse. I didn't think it through before bothering you. Please don't mind." I took a sip of coffee. "It's fine. Do you have something else to say?" He paused for a moment, then said, "I still hope you'll consider my proposal." "What? Getting back together?" I looked at him, surprised. He spoke like he had carefully thought it through, with a negotiating tone. "A child needs a complete family. Living alone will eventually bring many inconveniences. I also don't want our kid's stepfather to be some celebrity. It wouldn't be good for them. Can you understand?" I put my coffee down and said with a bit of amusement, "What are you trying to pull? You keep saying it's about the kids. But after all the time we spent together, do you really think I'm someone who'd give up my own life for the kids?" He paused again, as if still formulating his words. "Can you stop using negotiation tactics on me?" I sighed. "It's not necessary. I understand that you want to get back together, and that you're struggling without me. But have you considered that you might get used to it after a while? He knows, everyone knows. You just need to endure a bit, and you'll get used to it. No one is indispensable, but that process is painful. Annie, getting used to life without you is painful, and I don't want to go through that. Just last night, as I was sleeping, I subconsciously reached out to hold you, and there was nothing beside me. 10 years, we were together for 10 years. No one will ever hold the same place in our hearts, and I'll never love another woman like I loved you. How many decades do we have in life? After the youthful years, it's hard to feel that kind of spark again. He might only ever fall in love with me in his lifetime, but you get to feel something for many people." I sighed. "Jimmy, you're just not the type who can settle down. You like excitement, adventure, and finding new me in different girls. You regret losing me now, but in the future, you'll get tired of me again. If we get back together in another 8 years, when you get bored, are we going to divorce again?" Jimmy's expression stiffened. "Annie, we're good as we are now, both free, both having a fallback. If you miss Sam and Sarah, you can always see them. I won't stop you. But the home you want, I can't give you. Sorry. Maybe it's not the nicest thing to say, but I'm enjoying my life post-divorce, and I don't want to change it. I hope you understand. Goodbyes for adults are not grand, not dramatic, not fit for hysterics. Just a few words, and Jimmy was kept beyond a safe line, never to cross it again in this life." He looked at me, eyes turning red. He stared at me for a long time, long enough for the coffee to get cold before he finally spoke. "All right." He seemed to have finally made up his mind. "I won't bother you again." On Christmas Eve, Jimmy was called over by Sam and Sarah. Snow was falling heavily outside. The warmth indoors was filled with the children's laughter as they played. Jimmy stood watching from a distance, a stunned expression in his eyes. With an alcoholic father and a deceased mother, he never had a complete family. He once told me his greatest desire was to have a family, to give his kids a perfect childhood. He had it once, and then threw it away with his own hands. I patted his shoulder. "Want some wine?" At dinner, I had some red wine, and so did he. We didn't speak. That night, after my bath, I heard a faint sound by the door. I walked over, then heard it clearly. It was Jimmy, outside my door, reciting love letters he wrote to me in our youth. "From the first moment I saw you, I knew you were my destiny. Miss Annie, would you spend the rest of your life with me?" His voice was low and tender, like the murmur of lovers. I sat down with my back against the door, ear pressed to the cold door. I heard his melancholic sigh. I mistook the passion in life for love. Today, I finally realize that those intimate years with you are deeply etched in my heart. I won't forget them for a lifetime. If I could, I still wouldn't want to give up. Annie, I love you. His voice was gentle, seeping through the door, making me feel like it was the old days. A young boy ran up to me, handed me a love letter, and then shyly ran away. The voice continued, "I still love you. I'm waiting for the day you're willing to give me a chance to atone." In Sternberg's triangular theory of love, he defines love with 3 elements: passion, intimacy, and commitment. Missing just one, it can't be called love. But feelings still exist. Years of closeness tied Jimmy and me together, in a way that couldn't easily be severed. He can't leave me. He can't forget me. Like a dog wagging its tail, whining for my pity. In relationships, the one who can't forget is the loser. There will probably be more entanglements in the future, but no matter what happens, I won't be the one who gets hurt. From now on, his happiness, anger, sadness, and joy are at my mercy. Is it satisfying? I wonder. Not really. It's just a bit ironic, I guess. I laughed mockingly. Human nature is inherently cheap. Indeed.